GM, I just got out of the podcast together with Wolfgang from Fraunhofer Institute and the Blockchain Reallabor. And if you've ever wondered what is Germany actually up to when it comes to blockchain technology, when it comes to XR, the metaverse, and everything that is probably too innovative to be part of the German culture, Wolfgang is a really ambitious and really smart human being that is basically leading everything that is going on in the Blockchain Reallabor and every blockchain initiatives that are coming out of the Fraunhofer Institute. And he's talking all about the companies and industries that they have been working with, the research projects that they have been doing in the couple of years. He told me about the story that he used the gaming computer of his son 10 years ago to mine some Bitcoin. He's really up on trying out the things that he's also talking about. And I'm really fascinated about the use cases that they're actually using and doing already, which I didn't know of before. Very, very interesting nuggets that Wolfgang shared with me. Really looking for your feedback. But now let's dive into the episode of the Onchain podcast where Web3 meets every industry. Let's go. GM, Wolfgang, I'm actually very happy that after a long day, you still have the time to talk to me. I've heard you've been to another event. What was it about exactly? Can you share something?
It wasn't anything about Web3. Actually, it was about large language models and how they can apply it in a, in a lawyer company. And what they can what they can do with it. Yeah, actually, while we discussed it, we also touched some blockchain issues about GDPR issues and things like that, and authentication of knowledge, where we also touched about blockchain and Web3 issues. But it was mainly about ChatGPT, how it can be applied and how it can be applied in a proper way.
And is discussing all of these technical things in general, is this part of your daily business? Or why is that we're here in a Web3 podcast and you love to talk about blockchain, but at the same time, you're also invited to be part of these events where it's all about ChatGPT in law?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's because, I'm vice director of the Fraunhofer Institute for Applied Information Technology. And applied information technology is actually anything that is currently really in the focus of companies, really to transform their business to a more digital business. And therefore, we are observing a lot of these different technology trends that are currently going on. Blockchain was a big trend over the past years, and it's still, for some companies, thank God, somehow important. But at the moment, artificial intelligence, large language models, and generative AI is for a lot of companies also going to the focus. But our institute is addressing a lot of these things. Beyond these more very technical things, we are also investing into extended reality. So metaverse somehow on the topic, but it's more extended reality in the industrial environment. We do a lot of research in the area of data spaces, decentralized knowledge management, and things like that.
And how does it, for everyone who doesn't know the Fraunhofer Institute, or what it is like to be part of something that is more research heavy, as far as I understand it? What exactly is this whole institute about, and what is maybe also the goal that you're trying to reach with that?
Yeah, you asked what is it like? It's great. It's really great. You're really on the top edge technologies, and you have a lot of freedom to look at technologies, and you're always doing very interesting things. But you have to be curious. Yeah, you have to be curious on these new technologies, and you have to ask, how can these technologies be applied? Yeah, so we do a lot of applied research, and the mission of Fraunhofer is actually to bring these technologies to business, to industry. So you can consider us as somehow in between university and companies. Yeah, so we are somewhere in between. We have a lot of state-of-the-art knowledge, and we do a lot of research in state-of-the-art technologies, but we also have in focus how this can be used for companies. Yeah, and that's the mission of Fraunhofer, really to educate, to engage, to support digital transformation for German industry.
And what would you say is the current state of, because when I talk to the people here at W3 Hub in our co-working space, they all came back from these conferences in Asia, and they're like, okay, Germany is like, it seems to really lag behind when it comes to innovation and tech. I would love to say something different, but what is your opinion on that?
I think it really depends. It really depends to whom you talk. We know some companies who are really much in front and who are really curious and who are really open to invest and open to play. Yeah, and I think you have to be more playful. You have to be curious, really, to look at these technologies. On the other hand, you talk to companies who say, well, our order books are full and we don't have any time to look into any innovative stuff. Yeah, and then you scratch your head and then you think, I mean, what's going on there? I mean, your order books are full for the next 1 or 2 years, but then you will look around and what's happening. Yeah. So I think it really depends. On the other hand, also with my colleagues, when they go to any of these Web3 hackathons, they always come back and say, well, all these countries, they are so enthusiastic about blockchain and Web3 and tokenization. And here in Germany, we have to do a lot of conversations. We have to convince company that this is a good thing. They always ask, what's in it for me? What's the business case? Yeah. And it's sometimes a little bit more difficult here in Germany. But on the other hand, you may argue that if things really work here in Germany, they really work in the end.
That's actually true. Yeah.
Except for the German Bundesbahn, but yes. But on the other hand, it's really something that if it's really been approved here, it really probably sees a good market.
And how did the Fraunhofer Institute then really started to explore blockchain technology? I mean, this is also the connect that we have through the W3 Vision, but also we were guests at the Tech Fusion event. What are you forcing in with this topic? Is this in the general agenda? Okay, we need to explore blockchain, AI, and all of these things, or what was the initial starting point to dive deeper into these things?
Yeah, there are manifold reasons. I mean, it really happened that I started also running a Bitcoin miner on the gaming PC of my son when Bitcoin really came up right at the beginning. But then, but to really, I mean, I didn't make any money out of this. But it was something that I really also said, well, what's going on there? I don't really understand what's going on there. This is probably just some geek stuff and so on. Yeah, it was nice, but I stopped it after a day because I thought, well, I don't know. Yeah, it's not, don't know what's going on there. So I didn't become rich out of this. And then years later on, I still came across this topic. Yeah, so it was still at the early ages. It was when Bitcoin was still around 500 to 600 euros.
Okay, yeah, but then when was that? Like 2012 or what was that?
Yeah, 2012 around. Yeah, it's approximately 10 years ago. Yeah, and but then we still didn't see this as some kind of investment stuff because as Fraunhofer we are not doing anything in investment business. But we thought that this is a very nice cooperation technology, and that is actually our research area. So I'm coming from a research area where we do research in the area of cooperation technologies. How can people be better supported in their cooperation using web technology? So we did a lot of Web 2 technologies, shared workspaces, social media stuff. So we did a lot of research in this area. And then we thought, well, this is probably a new way to support cooperation, to support trustful cooperation between companies who don't know each other, to make things irreversible, to provide new kinds of identities, maybe also to provide some anonymity, and really to provide a new way to support value chains. And that was where we thought that could be something very interesting for Fraunhofer. And then we started the Fraunhofer Blockchain Lab with some other colleagues, where we did a lot of projects in the area of supply chain, energy trading, food tracking, security stuff, also a little bit of financial transactions. So we gathered a lot of experience there. Most of that was really in the area of research projects. But then more and more also companies approached us and they wanted to see some prototyping, some early developments, and they really wanted to understand what blockchain is all about. That was in the hype phase. Yeah. Which is now 5 years ago or so. And then later on, we also founded this Blockchain Reallabor here near Cologne. And this Blockchain Reallabor is actually founded by the local Ministry for Economy in the area of digital transformation of this coal mining area. Yeah, so the whole area between Cologne, Düsseldorf, and Aachen is famous for coal mining. Yeah, and this will stop. Yeah, so making energy out of coal will stop in the next years. So we have to see where is business going here. And our mission is then also to talk to companies here and to tell them about the new possibilities of Web3 and how they can apply and adopt these different technologies really to enhance their business model or even to find new business models.
And the companies you're talking to, what kind of industries are these companies from? Are they part of like the Blockchain Reallabor, or where's the connection coming from?
Yeah, it differs. I mean, it's sometimes public government, so it's cities who are interested in that. It's some kind of education companies who just consider the way of providing digital certificates. Yeah, it's logistics companies. It's also consultancy companies. It's energy companies, and it's also quite some startups who approach us to challenge their idea and to really understand where is the business in this blockchain area, and if their idea is somehow fruitful, what other kind of competitors are around, and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you talk to them and they apply the technology, they try to understand the technology. Where's then the point where it ends, or where you start maybe a project together, if you do so? I don't know. As far as I understood, you're more on the research side, but are you also supporting them with really implementing things?
Maybe, can be. So normally our mission is really first education and explanation and really making people aware of that technology. And we do this by workshops, by individual workshops with companies. We do it by conferences and some exhibitions that we do on a regular basis. We have a large showroom here where we show a lot of different blockchain applications and possibilities. And with this, we try to convince people that there's something behind that technology and to make them curious. The next step is then to go into workshops. So we offer them workshops where we discuss their business and how blockchain can support this kind of business. And this can be very simple, just by providing some digital certificates, quality certificates, educational certificates, by tokenize digital assets, by developing a digital product pass, or by even showing them how things can become autonomous. Yeah, so we have examples here where we show some kind of autonomous things that provide some kind of pay-per-use services and things like that. So it's the whole range of just using the blockchain as a kind of certification unit, to make things irreversible, over tokenization, really to make things more autonomous in the end. And if we find then somewhere an application area for the company, the next step is then really to see how can we develop this into a product, into a minimal viable product or a prototype or things like that. What we can do is that we can develop a simple prototype, because we have a lot of tools available here that allow us to develop a prototype within 1 or 2 days. So that they can experience how it looks like, what it is, and they see it's not that complex, because right at the beginning, people were coming to us and they wanted to know, how is blockchain actually working? We invest a lot of time in educating what is proof of work and why is it so energy intensive and things like that. These times are over. So very often we just tell them, well, a good blockchain application is an application where you don't even see the blockchain. You just have the value propositions of irreversibility, security, and things like that. Decentralization and things like that. So we develop a simple prototype, and then they can experience it. They see that it's not that complicated. And then we have to see whether we can find some funding for that. There are still some funds available also in this transformation area here, or whether they just pay for themselves. Sometimes people just invest by themselves. They are so convinced that they say, okay, that's something I would like to invest in, and I really see some business case for me. And then we either we can do it by ourselves. Fraunhofer will not develop a full-fledged product in the end. We go to a almost product-like state. because we can't provide later on sales services and things like that. Or we move this then to one of the partners of our partner network, which is then blockchain NRW, yeah, so from Nordrhein-Westfalen. And there are some companies that we just forward this to, and we say, let's do it together. Yeah, we do some kind of research alongside the development, but we have a professional partner who's then doing the whole software development.
Do you have, from like the process that you've just mentioned, do you have an example that you can also share? Like any project, you talked about identity and stuff, where you really applied what you just said?
Yes. We have an example of a very simple use case. We have a large logistics company nearby, and what they do is they do a lot of transports of chemical goods in some very large tank silos. And these lorries and trucks, they have to be cleaned after each load because they have chemicals inside. And before you load the next chemical, the whole truck has to be cleaned from the inside. And this is being certified by a paper document. And when we talked to the boss of this company, he immediately understood what blockchain is about. And he said, we can do this all digital, which means that we now have a digital certificate, which is counterproof. Yeah, you can't change it. Yeah, and since logistics is a business where the margins are very small, yeah, the time and money is important there. There is still somehow some opportunity, maybe not to clean the tank as it is supposed to be cleaned, yeah, or that you just somehow copy a document or things like that. Yeah, so it doesn't happen often, but it's possible. Yeah, so and we now support this by a digital certificate, yeah, where we just put the certificate on a blockchain, and where we also issue a verifiable credential. And this project is now one that is being founded within this kind of support program here within our area. We have other projects that we did, for example, with German Telekom research, where we created NFTs along the supply chain. Yeah, so suppliers have been asked to provide the CO2 footprint of their products together with the products along the supply chain. And we developed a prototype where this system is then being used really to track the CO2 footprint of the goods that are later on being used or also sold by German Telekom. That is not really went into a product in the end, yeah, but it was a prototype that has been evaluated. Or for another company, we are doing a counterproof system for material that is being provided to other manufacturers, and they use that material in another product, and the final customer, he wants to be sure that the product he receives really has the product of the first company inside. You can't prove it anymore in the end, yeah, because there are chemical processes going on, but it's really essential that this product really is inside. Yeah, and we guarantee that this is the case by kind of tokenization of the products, by tracking of where the products go and things like that. Yeah, but this will go in real use by the beginning of next year.
I mean, you just talked about the things that you were doing and that seem to be right or seem to work quite well. Are there also any particular things where the people that you work with or the companies say, okay, it's too complicated still, or we could also do it with Web 2 technology, or we don't need any of this? What are like the backlashes and maybe the learnings you take out of it when presenting these topics to them?
Yeah. An interesting thing is going on there at the moment. We started our very first blockchain application was blockchain for education. And that was developed for the Fraunhofer Academy. The Fraunhofer Academy is actually doing a lot of different educational programs. And they said, we also issue paper documents as a certificate. Let's do it with a blockchain certificate. So we developed a full-fledged solution for that. We discussed with a lot of educational providers. Yeah, and they all said, no, we don't know. Is this being accepted? Is it GDPR conform and things like that? And we could say, yes, it is. But there wasn't a big uptake. And at the moment, we see more and more requests in this direction, because now companies understand that they can save a lot of money by reducing their call center that is doing nothing else as just answering phone calls of, I have a certificate here, but I'm not sure if this is correct. It looks a little bit fake. Yeah,
Interesting. Okay, yeah.
yeah, and now people are coming back. It's so that's quite interesting. We must also say that we also try to convince other companies here about the Meta Brew business case. Yeah.
Nice.
So
Do
we
you want to
also talk
explain what
to
that is?
yeah Meta Brew. I mean, the Meta Brew use case is that a brewery is just selling tokens, more NFTs, and by if you buy a token, you get beer for your lifelong, almost your lifelong. Yeah, but you somehow buy a share of the production of the brewery by buying an NFT. Yeah, so we discussed this with other companies here in the area of cosmetics. We also discussed it with a local brewery here in our town. Yeah, but they were not really convinced. They were a little bit afraid. Yeah, well, what does it happen? What's going on there? Are my customers are really already so educated that they know what an NFT is? Yeah. So in this
Yeah.
area, we probably didn't succeed. But I must say that was still at the point where blockchain transactions were still more expensive. And I think a big game changer are the layer 2 blockchains, Polygon, Arbitrum, Hedera, and Hedera is the layer 1, but all these blockchains who make transactions cheap, scalable, easily usable. We have the tools, and therefore you can really bring an application on the blockchain with very low costs. And I think this will be a game changer, that you not have to talk about transaction costs or things like that.
Can I ask one question in the middle? Because now that you've been talking about all these projects that you work on and the companies that you talk to, what is actually the thing that drives you personally to stay in the space, to really like wave the Web3 blockchain flag and tell everyone how amazing this technology is? Like, what do you see into that, and why do you wake up every day and work on these things?
I must admit, sometimes it's becoming a little bit harder because you see so much wind sometimes blowing into your face, because there are so many voices that say, well, it's not working. Sometimes when you talk about it, people still say, well, is blockchain still alive? I thought it stopped. Yeah, and then you tell them, look, I mean, there are people who invest millions in that, yeah, and there's money transfer in billions on this particular technology, but not so many people are talking about it. No, for me, it's actually that I think there are vast opportunities. It's such an interesting technology, and for me, it's also the decentralization. It's a little bit of fire and forget. What we often tell people is that when you create a token for your asset, for a machine, for a certificate, for a quality stuff, or for a CO2 footprint or whatever, you just put it on the blockchain and then see what happens. I mean, it's the beginning of an economy that you initiate that with a seed, with a token of your product, and then other people can jump on this bandwagon. They see, there's a product, and I can provide additional information to that particular product. But I'm afraid that not that many people have understood that so far, that you really can also use what other people put on the blockchain as a token for your own business. And I can give you a very simple example. We had a very nice use case here in our area, and that was the Bored Ape token of Daitas. Daitas is a company that is selling carnival clothes. Yeah, you know, cologne.
Yeah.
Carnival is a big thing. Yeah, and then there was the token. It was issued on Solana, and they had a cool idea. They took bored apes, yeah, and they costumed bored apes. Yeah, and they said the bored apes are get bored, and therefore they are coming to the Cologne Carnival, and now you can buy them. So you bought an NFT, and with this NFT now you could get a discount in the shops. Yeah, you were invited to some raffles, so you could win tickets for a carnival party, tickets to visit the parade in Cologne, and things like that. We thought that's a great idea. Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't took off as expected. Yeah, I think they didn't sell all the NFTs. On the other hand, they sold NFTs all over the world. Yeah, so they really broadened their business, not just to the Cologne area. In the end, the person who was responsible for that left the company. And with that, the whole initiative died. So it was somehow a decentralized approach that was depending on a centralized person. Yeah, so it's somehow this whole dilemma that we very often see. We have a decentralized approach, but on the other hand, it's centralized. Okay, so we still have the NFT, and you still can go to the shops. You still can go to the shops and say, hey, I have the NFT, and if you come to the right cashier, she remembers or he remembers and says, yeah, you get discount. Now, the point is, the NFTs are there. Why isn't any other carnival club or brewery in Cologne now using the NFTs by saying, well, if you come to my carnival party and you have the Daitos NFT, the first drink is on me.
Yeah.
You immediately address a large audience. Yeah, you revitalize the community, and it costs you nothing. And you just jump on the bandwagon of these kind of tokens. So I think they are not dead. They are at the moment just unused. People have not yet understood what they can do with it. And that's the same when very often people say, why should I put a token of my product on the blockchain? Who will use it? I said, just wait, talk to the suppliers, talk to other people who use it, and they probably can attach further information about it. Maintenance information, further information, they just attach it. And by that we build another ecosystem. And that is what people have to understand. And this is also what we try to bring forward.
What do you think is still needed for these things to become more widespread or more mainstream? I mean, it makes totally sense for you. It makes sense for me to reuse the engagement and the loyalty of people. But what is missing that everyone else also understands and is able to use that as well?
Simplicity of the wallets, simplicity of the tools, and just integrate it into your application. Sometimes don't talk that it's a blockchain issue. It's just a nice feature in your application. And I think we also, 2 years ago, we had a session here. We had a lunch session here on our campus, and we say, well, it's the NFT lunch session. And we also issued NFTs. The problem was not the NFT. The problem was MetaMask and the wallets. Really, to bring people to install a wallet on their phone and things like that. That was the big hurdle. Yeah, and we still have this discussion about custodian wallets and local wallets and non-custodian wallets. So I think it has to be easier to use, so that everybody can use it, and that not everybody's afraid. What happens if I lose my keys? We still have the dilemma, not your keys, not your crypto, but we need to find easier ways to do this. And therefore, one of my colleagues, he's doing his PhD on account abstraction. That may be a solution for that, to make it more easier. But very often it's just user friendliness.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And I mean, you invited not only us from the W3 group, but also many other exciting industries and projects for the Tech Fusion, which was a month ago almost, near Cologne. It's in Hürth. Yeah, Hürth, right? So not quite there yet with Cologne. But what I found interesting is that you kind of made this triangle of, what was it, XR, blockchain, and metaverse, right? Or did I?
No, it was AI. AI, generative AI. Yeah. So it's really we had 3 circles that were overlapping then. Yeah. So on the one hand, you have Web3, then you have all XR technologies, and you could argue where Web3 meets XR, we see the metaverse. Yeah, and then we have generative AI, and when generative AI meets XR, you have something like intelligent avatars. And when you take generative AI meets web, you have some kind of authenticated knowledge, and you can monetize money, you can monetize knowledge that you have there. Yeah, and the big question is, what's in the middle? Yeah, what is the intersection of that? I think it's not the metaverse. Could be economy of things in the end. Yeah, it could be Web 5, but I really think that none of these technologies in itself is sufficient. You always have to combine it, and that is what we want to do with the Tech Fusion, to talk about the combination, about these things and the benefits when all these things are joining. Yeah, and you have to see it from a holistic view. And on the other hand, it also tells you it's not the technology. It's actually that you think about the improving your business and looking at the technology that is best for it, of doing it. Yeah, very often people.
Well said. Exactly. Yeah.
And very often people come and we say, well, that's not a blockchain use case. Yeah, but let's use it. Let's take some other technology. Yeah, you have to digitize it. That's it. Even if you do it with a very, very old Web 2 technology. Yeah.
But I totally agree with that. This is also whenever I ask, I like to ask people what they think what Web3 is for them. Majority would say, okay, it's definitely blockchain based. Majority would also say it's just blockchain and crypto and nothing else in between. Like XR is XR and AI is AI. Whereas I think, and maybe it's just a thing to feel better to say this, but in the end, for me, it's just like the next step of all these new technologies combined somehow. Not everything needs to be combined in a way, but just like the evolution of how we interact with our environment that gets way more digitalized from day to day. And how to connect things, how to connect data and information. And this is what Web3 is, at least in my case. And this at least sounded a little bit going into that direction from your side as well.
Yeah, definitely. And your talk at the Tech Fusion was great. And a lot of people were coming to me and I said, wow, that was so enthusiastic. Yeah, that was so convincing and so enthusiastic. This is something I would like to hear more often, because very often you hear talks, who were criticizing it. Yeah, but you gave such an enthusiastic talk about it. That was really great. And it showed people there is so much behind it. Maybe I would disagree a little bit that Web3 is what is in the middle. But I have to disagree, because in my research department, I have people who are doing also XR technologies. And if I will tell them, look, Web3 is blockchain and what you are doing, they say, no, we have a standalone situation. Yeah. So it's just that I have to argue this with my colleagues.
True that.
Yeah. So if Web3 would argue that we are somehow that we are somehow integrating all the other technologies would probably object. Yeah, there's also a very interesting case where people argue, is it Web3 or Web 3.0? And Web 3.0 has its own meaning. Yeah, it was actually more by Tim Berners-Lee who thought, well, the further extension of the World Wide Web will go to Web 3.0 because it's the semantic web. Yeah, while Web 3 is the more blockchainy web. Yeah,
interesting.
So that are very often are different terms and how they are being used. And with my colleague Live, who is XR specialist, he always says, well, don't mix Web 3.0 with Web 3, and I fully agree. Yeah, it's two different things.
It's interesting. I've never I'm totally aware of the Web 3.0 term, but I think since we never really used it. And I think in the beginning companies were using it as well because they were mismatching it with Web3 in general. But as from now on, I don't know anyone who still says Web 3.0. But I totally understand also on the other side that people would argue it's something different and it's the internet that Tim Berners-Lee had in mind versus now we have all this blockchain craze that is going with that. One of the last questions, I actually wanted to ask this question in the beginning, but now that you've mentioned it and you were talking about talks on stage, at the DMEXCO, you were talking about the economy of things. Just out of curiosity, if I would have not seen the presentation, what exactly do you understand about economy of things?
Yeah, I use an interesting definition that I also found on the web. To be honest, it's the economy of things is just the intersection of Internet of Things, so IoT devices, small, clever, connected devices, plus Web 3. Which means interconnectivity, digital identity, secure transmission of data, plus AI. Yeah, so that these different devices become somehow autonomous. And as an example, we have one example here in our lab, which is actually an economy of things example or use case, which I wasn't aware of before. I also learned about this particular term. It's a traffic light, and this traffic light it works. Sometimes it breaks, and when it breaks down, it's looking for repair shops. Yeah, so it's asking a few repair shops it knows about, and then the repair shops, they make offers. The traffic light compares the offers, it makes a decision, so it becomes autonomous, not AI based. Yeah, I mean it's simple rules. And then it decides. It submits a request. Yeah, one of the repair shops comes and repairs the traffic light, and in the end it pays for it. And we show that because all that is currently handled in smart contracts. Yeah, so we show, look, it's a blockchain use case. We show it using a 3D environment, so you can watch it on a large screen in 3D, but you can also use a HoloLens to see what's going on there on the table. Yeah, so we have a table with some cars, and then you see the traffic light and things like that popping up. And I think this is really a nice economy of things because it's a traffic light that is managing itself in a somehow autonomous way using blockchain technologies. And it saves time and money for the city. Yeah, and you can think about a lot of these things. So currently we are also experimenting here with some kind of waste bins in the city who are connected with LoRaWAN. Yeah, and here we use helium, which is again blockchain based. Yeah, so the helium network. Yeah, so we use a lot of helium miners here in the city of Cologne, city of Fürth. Sorry, city of Fürth. We use helium miners that are connect the different waste bins, and they just report their fill status. Yeah, and then we can calculate. The best route to empty those that are full using AI. Yeah, just
and this already
routing.
Works. Or
No,
is it
it's
just
not.
a test project?
That's a test project. That's a test project. But it was funny enough. We talked about it, and the mayor of our city, he was so convinced that he said, "That is something I want to have." Yeah.
Yeah.
So for him,
sometimes people need to see the value of it instead of just talking about it. But it's interesting. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, fine. The point is really, it's the value for the mayor is a clean city. Yeah, the value for the mayor is not blockchain or something like that. It's not of interest for him. Yeah, obviously he uses brilliant new technology. He wants to have a clean city, and he gets it by intelligence, by sensors. They're not that intelligent. By sensors that are connected to a network. You don't need to have wireless LAN or so. And the interesting thing is that you use LoRaWAN, which is already there, and somehow it's so cool because the citizens of Hürth provide the infrastructure such that the city can use that infrastructure to signal the status of their waste bins. And even maybe the citizens of Cologne, because LoRaWAN reaches far out, even the citizens of Cologne support the cleanliness of Fürth.
This is really, really cool. Interesting. And it was just a test, and now you'll see what's going to happen with that, or what is the status of that?
It just started. Mm-hmm. We have a waste bin here that we experiment with, and now we are elaborating how can we install that in the different waste bins, which should be the selected ones and things like that. Yeah. So now it's a little bit in the rollout phase on really bringing it into the waste bins. Yeah, obviously, I mean, you have to be careful when everybody knows that there is a nice LoRaWAN sensor in a waste bin. Suddenly, waste bins become very precious. Yeah.
True that another kind of problems come up with that.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And I mean, this is one of the really nice things that I would love to see in the future as well. But looking into the end of this podcast, looking into the next couple of years, what would you like to see more of? Or are there any use cases that you're particularly hyped about?
I would like to see more adoption of it and more companies who really take the technology up and who really understand what's going on there. Maybe we need to explain it even better. It could also be our fault. But I really see that tokenization of assets and understanding that this is something where you can support sustainability in the end with. Yeah. So why your company? I mean, if you have a product, just putting a token for that product with some kind of sustainability criteria on the blockchain, it costs you nothing. Yeah, I mean, it costs you, if you don't put it on Ethereum, it costs you a few cents. Yeah, and then your product is somehow associated with a token that you can carry around. Yeah, and suddenly this jacket has a token, or these glasses have a token, and when I provide it further on, or when it's being recycled, I probably find some recycling information associated with this token. Yeah. And things like that. So we have to think more towards these kind of ecosystems and on longer range, and not always what's in it for me immediately when I provide a token for that.
That's so true. That was a really nice conversation. I thought I learned a lot when we were talking in Cologne together, but now I learned even more in the things that you're already rolling out and things that already work. If people want to learn more about you, about the Fraunhofer, about Blockchain Reallabor, what are the best addresses? What is the best links, socials that people should check out in order to get in touch and learn more?
Follow our LinkedIn channel, Blockchain Reallabor or Fraunhofer Fit, and there we constantly update on the showcases that we do. We also do some kind of Web3 crash courses, that are for free for companies who are coming here from the area. and for the others, it's quite cheap. So in a one-day crash course, you learn what blockchain is, you get a wallet, you get your first tokens. We discuss use cases with you. And just follow us or contact us. That's the easiest way. Just get in touch with us and book a 2-hour workshop with us. Yeah, so that's easily possible, and that's at the moment it's being supported by the government. Yeah, so you get it almost for free.
Yeah, this is really good. Okay, Wolfgang, thank you very much taking the time to shine a little light into what actually like the German government and all the research labs are actually working on when it comes to blockchain technology. I really appreciate that, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the day.
Okay, thanks for talking to me.